Are the Diamondbacks in trouble when it comes to their young and upcoming pitchers? Well, some people think that in some ways, not only are we below average, but we are at the bottom of the barrel.
You are Locked On Diamondbacks, your daily Arizona Diamondbacks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Locked On Diamondbacks podcast, the show where we talk nothing but the Diamondbacks Monday through Friday. And thank you so much for making this show, Locked On Diamondbacks, your first listen every day. It means the world to me. I am your host, Dane Biggs. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. We are talking about a good chunk of things today. There's quite a bit of D-backs news out there that I'm going to bring up. None of these really warranted its own segment. One of these I maybe could have stretched out into a segment, but I'm kind of getting tired of doing this. You'll see why here in a second. We also have the big subject of the day, which is the revelation that there's a metric out there that the Diamondbacks are ranking 30th out of 30 in right now when it comes to their minor league pitching. And so we're going to talk about that and if that's really something we need to be worried about. And then we're going to close the show out by talking about history of our past breakout players, our breakout stars, when they had a big season that kind of changed everything, something that we're hoping for from a handful of players this upcoming season. So that'll be really fun. It was really fun researching that and kind of going back through Diamondback history. It was pretty exciting. So anyway, let's start with some news. First of all, I forgot to bring this up yesterday, but Sunday was Ketel Marte's 32nd birthday. So happy birthday to Ketel Marte. I know you're watching this right now. Feliz cumpleaños. And his wife posted something really nice on social media to commemorate his birthday. It was really sweet. It was really nice. I'm not going to read through it here, but you should go check it out. It was cute. Anyway, another bit of news: Arizona Diamondback former first round pick Chris Owings has announced his retirement. Now, Chris Owings played for 11 seasons. He was a first-round pick for the Diamondbacks, and he played here from 2013 to 2018. So he had a really good stretch of time here. And in 2016, one thing notable, he had 11 triples. So he was an extra base hitter and a fast base runner. He played for Arizona. He played for Kansas City. Played for Boston, Colorado, Baltimore, and Pittsburgh towards the end of his season. He didn't play much in 2024 or 2025. And has finally decided to hang up the cleats and call it. So excellent career from Chris Owings. Hopefully we get to see him kind of working behind the scenes with the Diamondbacks organization. He was definitely with the Diamondbacks longest in his career. So it'd be fun to see Chris Owings. Maybe we got to get him on the show. Maybe that's what we'll do. That'll be his first move after retiring, is showing up on this big old podcast that we have. But anyway, kind of interesting. That came out yesterday, so we wanted to share that. Again, not really necessarily its whole segment, but I think it was pretty interesting. I wanted to share that. Now, the thing that maybe could have been its own segment, honestly, it could have been the whole show if we really wanted to, but I feel like we already did this a couple times already in the last week. But according to Bleacher Report's Joel Reuter, the Diamondbacks would be a good fit for free agent Kyle Tucker. Now, Kyle Tucker's an outfielder, very skilled, very talented. He signed a one-year deal with the Cubs in 2025 for $16.5 million in order to avoid arbitration. And he is a free agent this year. And so Joel Reuter here is saying, ooh, well, you know what? The Diamondbacks might not be a bad place for Kyle Tucker. He is going to be looking for a multi-year, he's probably going to be wanting like a 8 to 10 year deal for worth $300 to $400 million. And so even Reuter's like, well, listen, the Diamondbacks are they're looking more for pitchers right now, but they do need outfielders, and he's right. But and then he kind of ends things with like, but you know, the Diamondbacks signed Corbin Burns for $30 million a year, so it's not like they're afraid to pay that kind of money now. And honestly, I wish the Diamondbacks were not afraid to keep upping things with payroll. I understand why they're not. The Diamondbacks aren't a huge market team. It's not like they're the Yankees or the Dodgers or anything like that. But at the same time, I feel like the Astros, and I don't know, maybe I should do research into this. Maybe this will be a fun episode. But the Astros, I feel like, are a pretty big market team now. But they weren't not long ago. So it's really just if you're playing with the big dogs, you'll find yourself amongst them. But if you're kind of like playing this money ball medium game, then I don't know that you're going to reach that level of the market. Which, I mean, the Dodgers are an international team. They're huge in Japan because they've been signing big, expensive Japanese-born players. And so that's just how that works. And they're making a ton of money off of it too. So it would be nice. I wish the Diamondbacks would be able to say, we're going to sign another A-list pitcher. We're going to sign a few veteran relief pitchers. It's going to cost a good amount of money, and we're going to sign a Tucker, a Kyle Tucker, or a Cody Bellinger, or something like that, and we're going to bring them on board as well, and we're gonna have this rocking outfield or whatever. We're gonna have this killer offense that coupled with Carroll and Marte and Perdomo, like these guys are going to kill it and all that kind of stuff. I wish that would happen. I don't see it happening in the near future. Maybe under new ownership, or maybe if the current ownership decides that they want to move towards that. But they've said very clear, they've made it very clear this year that's not happening. So anyway, looking for a multi-year deal. That's probably not going to happen. $300-400 million contract, not going to happen. I could see maybe a short-term deal, like a 1-year deal worth $16.5 million. I think that'd be on the table, but I don't think it sounds like Kyle Tucker isn't going to want to go for that. So I don't blame him. That would for where he's at. He didn't have a great season this last year, but I still think he's got a lot of juice. He's young. I think he's going to have good stuff ahead of him and is worth the money, to be honest. Anyway, you guys, we're going to talk about now this kind of controversial idea about a metric that has been used lately to measure what kind of stuff a pitcher has. So we're going to talk about that after the break. So don't go anywhere. Stay right there. I promise this is going to be cool. Don't click away. We're talking about statistics. What's not fun and sexy about that? Stay right there. We'll be right back. Most people can't name all the financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch Money is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. Don't let financial opportunity slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONMLB at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONMLB. Okay, so there's this new metric. I say it's new. I don't know if it's really new. I also don't know if it's being used by that many people, but there's this metric that's according to Baseball America, which is a paid news source, and I didn't want to pay for it. So I went to the next best place, which is Alex D'Agostino. I hope I'm saying your name right, Alex, who obviously is watching right now, from Sports Illustrated Diamondbacks. who covered this extensively. So I'm referring to his take on a lot of this. But anyway, according to Baseball America, the Diamondbacks' farm system ranks last 30 out of 30 in a metric called Stuff Plus. So what is Stuff Plus? That's the metric. That's what they're calling it. It's a series, and it's a series of algorithms and math and numbers and all that kind of stuff. Basically, it determines how much raw stuff a pitcher has. So you're talking about like your arm angle, your velocity, the vertical movement, how much breaking the ball does. It's just how nasty is a pitcher, you know? And it's kind of a hard thing to, I guess, with StatCast and everything like that. It's not as hard now, but it's kind of hard to put a exact definition on just like what is a nasty pitcher. And but you've seen them, you know what I'm talking about when I say a pitcher who's got like nasty stuff. And I guess our pitchers ranked, I don't know what these numbers mean, but our pitchers ranked 30 with a 96.3, and which I assume 100 is average, because the number one is the Dodgers with 103.9. So the the way that sounds to me is that a lot of the like nasty stuff that is often referred to comes with time, and it's something that kind of gets honed in. And we know that we have pitchers that have some pretty wild stuff. The question is just controlling it and being able to use it properly. And I know that that's something that a lot of our pitchers have, but the pitchers that have that are still struggling with things like location and consistency and things like that. That, I mean, that was something that Randy Johnson struggled with for a big portion of his early career. Was just he threw so fast and he threw so well, nasty, I guess, but he couldn't hit the zone. He was a wild pitcher. And it wasn't until he figured out how to locate his pitches that he became an elite pitcher. So I guess what we're looking at is that our minor league team, as of now, our minor league pitchers are kind of just middle of the road vanilla pitchers. They're not, this isn't to say that these guys are bad pitchers. I don't believe, I could be wrong, I don't believe that this is taking into account things like location and control and things like that. But so that, which is just as important, but I think what that means is kind of giving them this metric kind of implies a lower ceiling to me. So I don't know if this is a very legit statistic. I don't know what kind of metric, like where this is coming from or how long it's been around. I probably should have done far more research into this than I did, but it does, I think, highlight an interesting point where it's hard to develop pitchers. It's harder to develop pitchers than it is fielders and hitters, and offense and defense are fairly simple, or fairly not simple, but they're relatively easier to develop than pitching is. And the Diamondbacks have struggled with developing their pitchers. Now we have people like Ryan Nelson, Justin Martinez, Brandon Pfaadt, who have done pretty well. And we have other pitchers in the past like Brandon Webb and stuff who have done very well in our system. But if you look at who we have now and who we've had over the last handful of years, it is kind of discouraging. And if they are successful, a lot of them just goes to the bullpen, which is very important and which we absolutely need. But as far as looking like at who we have coming up, it's kind of promising, but it's also not like super exciting either. So like we have people like Cole Drake, we have Daniel Egan, David Hageman, who I think have a lot of potential, and they are still developing. They're figuring themselves out. And it wouldn't be hard for them to be able to say, for them to be able to develop their stuff plus, metric or whatever. But this does kind of leave me a little bit worried well, not worried, but what this says is it says if we want to get elite starting pitching, either somebody's going to have to develop in a big way. And that could be Ryan Nelson. That could be Cole Drake. That could be anybody, it could be Christian Mena. It could be anyone that has a big breakout season, figures out some mechanic and is able to deliver on it and is very, very good at what they do. Any of these guys could do that, but it's almost looking like it's more likely that we will have to trade for somebody or sign somebody to be able to do that. So hopefully that's what Corbin Burns is able to be when he is back. Hopefully we're able to sign somebody this offseason who's able to do that. So, but as far as looking internally over, at least in the short term, this makes me think, okay, well, we don't really have a ton going for us when it comes to pitching. So that's just something to keep in mind. Alex does say here, and I really like this quote, so I'm just going to read it for you. Is pitching development is one of the trickier things in baseball. Organizations that do so at an extremely successful rate are generally those that find themselves playing October baseball year in and year out. And I couldn't have summed it up better myself. That's exactly what it is. And the Diamondbacks are in this position where they're able to make the playoffs every once in a while. I mean, ever since the beginning, I think they had their stint from 1999, their second year, 1999 to 2002, sorry, where they went to the playoffs a few times. They won the division three times, and pretty good. They won the World Series that one time, but then from there, after 2002, it was okay. They went once in 2007. They went once in 2011. 4 years later, they won a wild card spot in 2017. 6 years after that, and then they won another wild card spot 6 years after that. So it's very widely spaced, and yeah, we went to the World Series in 2023. So it's like if you could make it to October baseball, anything can happen. But the Diamondbacks need to figure out a way to consistently be making the playoffs, and I think that they're not there right now, and that might be because we don't know how to develop our pitching. So our pitching has been one of the worst aspects of the team lately, and that was the reason we won the World Series in 2001 was because of our elite next level pitching. So that might, if that's the focus of this front office this season, then yeah, I hope they do. I hope they focus on the right elements of it, not just getting a couple of arms that will just end up getting injured anyway, but to figure out, okay, what do we need to do to better our development phase of this? So anyway, pretty interesting. Good article, Alex. Way to go. And I know you're watching, so good job. Anyway, we're going to talk about a handful of breakout seasons in Diamondback history. This was a really fun little deep dive, and I'm excited to share it with you guys. So stay right there. This will be super fun, super cool. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Okay, so I went back to the very beginning, and I was just like, breakout seasons, what do we got? As I was kind of going through this, I kind of started to whittle down my search a little bit. So this isn't an extensive list, but it did give me a lot of ideas for fun episodes to do in the future. I would love to do a video where we just like go through and break down the history of like all of our all-stars because I think that would be super cool, and see what years we had more all-stars and which ones we only had, just the one. things like that. But speaking of all-stars, our first all-star in Diamondback history was Devin White. I hope I don't know if it's Devin or Devon, but Devin White, I'm going to say, in 1998. He was our first all-star. It was his 14th season, and he had 22 home runs, 22 stolen bases, and an on-base percentage of .335. He had a 3.8 WAR in 1998, which was his best since 1993. So he had, I guess he had been better, but he was kind of entering the later stages of his career. And 1998, his only year with the Diamondbacks, it wasn't his biggest season, but it was a really big, like, late career breakout season, which is kind of why I included here. Plus, he was like our only, like, I guess he was our first, like, superstar. He was like our guy in 1998. So I wanted to include him. Now, one person here that I also really wanted to include was 1999 Jay Bell. And Jay Bell, I remember Jay Bell because I was a kid at this point. I was younger. I remember Jay Bell as being kind of like good, but not like all-star incredible. I'm trying to think of a comparison to somebody now. I remember him being kind of like a Pavin Smith or something, like good, and he could be reliable sometimes, but not anything crazy. He did score the winning run in the World Series. That was cool. But other than that, I didn't know much. But in 1999, it was his 14th season, because also he was old by this time. Older, I guess I should say. But he had, in his 14th season, he had a 4.9 WAR in 99, a career high of 38 home runs, 112 RBIs, 82 walks, and 132 runs. So he was a power hitter, and he had a great year, like in 93 with Pittsburgh, and he had a lot of hits and a lot of RBIs and things like that. But he never really found, like, this was the year that he had a breakout year in his power abilities. And I'm thinking of Geraldo Perdomo here. Now, Perdomo didn't hit 38 home runs, so that kind of puts that in perspective a little bit. But Jay Bell, up to this point, he was a moderate home run hitter, extra base hit hitter. He was good. He wasn't too bad, but he did. But this was kind of his peak year when it came to power, and he did end up retiring only 4 years later. So this was kind of his final big breakout season. Now, let's talk about another guy you guys might have heard of. His name is Randy Johnson. In 1999, we signed him, and he was already, by the way, I say he had a breakout season in 1999. He did, and I'll show you why. However, he was already very, very good at this point. Multi-time All-Star, very, very talented. He didn't go from bad to really good. He went from really good to elite, best of all time, and or greatest of all time, the GOAT, or whatever the kids say these days. I don't know. But but anyway, he went in 1998. He had a WAR of 5.7, and in 1999 that went from 5.7 to 9.1. His ERA went from 3.28 to 2.48, and he had, up to this point, his career high strikeouts of 364 strikeouts. He also had a career high of 12 complete games and 271.2 innings pitched. He was already, like I said, he was already a scary good pitcher for the previous 8 years, which he had been pitching even longer than that. But the previous 8 years, he was a very good, scary pitcher. But he became untouched. He entered a whole new level of his abilities, and it stayed that way for 4 whole years. He won 4 straight Cy Young awards from 1999 to 2002, which is unheard of. He was absolutely incredible, and went on to he went on to pitch a very good remainder of his career. But by this point, he was in his 40s and was starting to get up there in age. And so, but that jump from a really good pitcher to one of the best in history, and it would stay that way for a good amount of time. It wasn't just a one-off year. I want to point out that's what happened with Randy Johnson there. Now, another person who was very good, and I swear this isn't all just in this era, but Luis Gonzalez was very good and very talented as well. But 2001 was a very special year for him. He went from having 31 home runs in 2000 to 57 in 2001. His WAR went from 4.2 to 7.9. He had a 325 batting average. He won the home run derby, had 100 walks. People were afraid to pitch to him. On base percentage of 429. Nearly half the time he went up to bat in 2001, he was on base. Whether it was a hit, a home run, or a walk, he was getting on base. He was going to touch first base. So absolutely incredible. He did play 7 more seasons after 2001. However, 2001 was easily his standout year. 1999 and 2000 did kind of build up to that. This wasn't an all-at-once breakout year for him, so maybe it doesn't really qualify for this list. But I did want to include him because 2001 was his best year, and you know, maybe we'll get a 57 home run year from Ketel Marte or Corbin Carroll. I don't know. Good year, and then the next year, best in the league. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Let's go ahead and look at real quick. Curt Schilling also had a really good 2001. Best of his career, 8.8 WAR, 22 wins. He went from 5.2 to 8.8 WAR, 11 wins to 22 wins. He went from 168 strikeouts to nearly 300, 293 strikeouts. And he then went on to play. So up to this point, he was pretty good. And then after 2001 and after, for the next 4 years, he would play the best baseball of his career. Should 100% be a Hall of Famer. And I don't care what your politics are or beliefs or whatever, and I don't care what his are, but he should 100% be in the Hall of Fame. And he will someday. I just wish it would be in his lifetime. I feel like it's going to happen afterwards, which is a real shame. But absolutely incredible. Let's look at some other ones that aren't some post 2001. We had do you guys remember Junior Spivey? I have a batting glove of his when I was a little kid. Yeah, he gave me one, and I still have it somewhere. I think it's in a box. I should find it and set it up somewhere back here. But he, in 2002, he went from a 0.4 WAR to a 3.9 WAR, and went from 258 to 301 batting average. Had a career best 162 hits, 34 doubles, 78 RBI. So Junior Spivey had a pretty big breakout year in 2002. Brandon Webb, we're going to talk about him. Brandon Webb, homegrown here in Arizona. He had a very good rookie season in 2003, but the year that I would call his breakout year has got to be 2006. So he had a very good rookie season, kind of dipped back down a little bit. And then in 2006, he ended up going from 4.9 WAR to 7.0 WAR with a 3.54 ERA down to 3.10. He went from 1 complete game in 2005 to 5 complete games in 2006. It's 2006, he was an all-star and won the Cy Young Award. So very incredible. Everything between, by the way, his whole career, incredible, tragically short. But from 2003 to 2008, he was one of the best pitchers in the league. Wonderful, amazing. And in 2009, he pitched 1 game, and that was the end of his career. So that's a shame. But he is still very active in the Diamondbacks organization, so it's good to see him. We should have him on the show. Let's just do that. Let's just call him. Brandon, I know you're watching, so just reach out to my people. Your people reached out to my people. Let's go. Let's talk about it. Now, again, this list doesn't cover everybody, and maybe we'll do another one of these at some point. In 2007, we had Jose Valverde. He had been on the team before. He went from 18 saves in 2006 to 47 saves in 2007. He had 19 earned runs that that season, a 2.66 ERA, which was a huge improvement from the previous year, which was 5.84. He was an all-star, and he got 6th in Cy Young votes and 14th in MVP. So he was the closer. He was the man. He would have another great year in 2008 with Houston, as well as another fantastic 5 years after that. So Jose Valverde up to that point, fine, but then became an elite closer at that point. So big breakout year for him. Ian Kennedy, he had a really good year. He went from a 9-10 season in 2011 and in 2010, and in 2011 had a 21-4 season. He had 198 strikeouts. He only gave up 55 walks and had a 2.88 ERA. So very good year for Ian Kennedy. Justin Upton, another homegrown Arizona player, 2009. It was his 3rd season. He went from a 0.8 WAR to a 4.0 WAR. Had 26 home runs, 86 RBIs, doubling the year before that, and went from a 250 ERA to a 300 ERA, average, 250 average to 300 average, and was an all-star that year. He had a very long and successful career, and most seasons where he was above average, and he had a handful of years, 2009 included, where he was exceptional. So we also have Mark Reynolds in 2009. It was his 3rd season as well. He had a 3.3 WAR. He had 44 home runs in 2009, 260 average. He had 102 RBIs, an on-base percentage of 349, 150 hits, and it was by far the best season of his career in 2009. Also in 2009, we have Miguel Montero, who had a really good 2009. He was injured a good chunk of 2010, but the reason why Miguel Montero's on here is because in 2008, he had a WAR of negative. He was a negative 0.4 WAR. And then he went up to a 3.3 WAR and just kept going up. His 2009 to 2012 was just consistently improving and becoming better. He was amazing. He had a 294 average in 2009. He had 38 walks. People were afraid to pitch to him, but in 2012 he even had 72. So people really were scared to pitch to this guy, and he knew how to draw walks. He had 59 RBIs this year in 2009, a 355 on-base percentage. Miguel Montero, if you guys remember, very, very talented, very good. Stephen Drew had a really good 2008, was his breakout year. Both of these were, or most of these were after the 2007 division win. But Stephen Drew, he had 44 doubles, 11 triples, 178 hits. He had a really good 2008 to 2011. Patrick Corbin in 2018 had a breakout year, a 4.4 WAR. He gave up in the whole season only 15 home runs and had 246 strikeouts. He was an all-star and 5th in Cy Young voting. We jumped ahead pretty good there in 2018, but in 2013, a young Paul Goldschmidt had his breakout year with 36 home runs and 125 RBIs with a 401 on-base percentage. He had 182 hits, and Paul Goldschmidt would later go on to be a 6-time All-Star from 2013 to 2018. Easily, I mean, but before this point, he was not anything particularly great, but after 2013, he became a legend and would set up what should be a Hall of Fame career. 2015, let's just rattle off a few more. AJ Pollock had a breakout year in 2015. Let's look at Ketel Marte, had a breakout year. His breakout year was 2019. So about 6 years ago, he had a 6.9 WAR, 32 home runs, 92 RBIs. And let's look at the most recent year, 2025. The biggest breakout player of this season was undoubtedly Geraldo Perdomo, who had a 7.0 WAR, 20 home runs, 100 RBIs, and 389 on-base percentage. And the 20 home runs is cool because this was only his 5th season, by the way. In his 4 seasons before that, he had a combined 14 home runs. This season, he had 20 in this season alone. Absolutely incredible. And I hope that we continue to see Perdomo grow and turn into this all-star breakout player, and that this year is that first year before much greater comes, much like, Paul Goldschmidt or Brandon Webb and Miguel Montero and all these other guys. Some of these guys, and I kind of want to go through this again and with a slightly different perspective of seeing players who had great seasons and see which ones continued to have great seasons and which ones declined and stopped having great seasons, and kind of then compare that to who we have right now and see if there's any parallels or similarities. So let me know if you guys would like to see that. Anyway, guys, be sure to follow us on X and Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Diamondbacks. We're on YouTube as well as all other places you get your podcasts. If you want to see more of me, you can find more of my YouTube channels and projects at my website, slackshack.tv. Thank you for making Locked On Diamondbacks your first listen every day. For your second listen, find the all-night Locked On MLB Game Night. Every game, every night until a World Series champion is crowned. Get local analysis on a national scale. Find MLB Game Night on Locked On MLB on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thank you so much, and I will see you tomorrow.